Motion Twin made a massive impact with their first game, Dead Cells, moving the roguelike Metroidvania genre forward in new and exciting ways, despite the genre being flooded with titles trying their hand at reinventing the wheel. Motion Twin's next title, Windblown, looks to continue the studio's innovation in a familiar genre, retaining roguelike combat and progression, but instead presents the action in a top-down isometric perspective, similar to that of Hades, although this time in a bright, cooperative, lightning-fast package. So I played the preview build of Windblown provided by Motion Twin ahead of the Steam Next Fest demo that has actually gone live just now, followed with the early access release October 26. I'll go over the various elements of the game and my thoughts of this preview build, but keep in mind this is a full work in progress and will change over time throughout its early access journey. So Windblown's premise begins on the Ark, a floating peaceful village that orbits a dangerous vortex. Players take on the role of a leaper, tasked with defending your abode against this vortex and the many monsters and contraptions within it, and through the power of the Ark, leapers can re-enter the vortex after death. After a few cutscenes introducing the various cute cast of the characters on the Ark, we set off into the vortex to see what dangers await. So the introducing story has a few funny moments and serves as a good introduction to Windblown's premise. The story will hopefully develop over time to help us pull us more into the story of the Ark and why we're doing this in the first place. Windblown's game loop consists of you and up to 2 other fellow leapers launching, literally, into the vortex and roguelike expeditions. Leapers navigate the various dangerous areas as you collect loot, currency that persists between runs, and fragments that unlock new items to be purchased in a shop. This run-like formula feels a bit familiar compared to other roguelike games, but Windblown aims to set itself apart by placing an emphasis on its lightning-fast combat, even more so than its other genre competitors. So as soon as we enter the vortex, combat and its fast-paced action hit me right away, with the very first enemies requiring quick timing and awareness, each relentless enemy having the capability to kill you if you're not paying close enough attention. I was constantly zipping around between enemies and along environments to the next challenge. There is a dash that has almost no cooldown, encouraging constant movement, and a slowdown effect that's triggered when diving out of harm's way. Players will start with a primary weapon and can pick up a secondary weapon during runs, such as a giant sword or a kunai. In addition to this, 2 trinkets can also be picked up, providing various different effects, such as a glue bomb that slows down enemies or a frost vortex that freezes. Players also have a healing potion that can have its usage upgraded via shop upgrades. Windblown's areas are split into small floating platforms, with each containing enemy groups, usually more frantic than the last. In between these fights, players will also run into branching paths where one way might offer a currency, where the other one might offer a stat boost. Motion Twin has recommended that Windblown be played with a controller over a mouse and keyboard. Keyboard controls are serviceable, and one of my friends did play with this and he didn't seem to be struggling, but I definitely agree with the controller recommendation myself. Controls are fantastic and simple to pick up. Each button corresponds to a different weapon or action. Now this simple, easy to grasp button layout is almost a necessity, allowing players to jump in its fast-paced combat with barely no adaptation to figuring out its control scheme. Leapers can also perform ultra attacks by combining their primary and secondary weapon attacks, which offer increased damage and critical hits. These ultra attacks are prompted with a signal and sound cue, which is a blessing, especially with all the combat going on around you. For example, 3 attacks from a primary weapon will then trigger an ultra attack if I finish with a secondary weapon attack. As per the roguelike formula, there is a currency that is exclusive to a run, allowing for potion refills, weapon pickups, things like that, and 2 persistent currencies that go towards unlocking permanent stat upgrades, or giving you the option to unlock new drops to be seen in future runs. Windblown presents quite a bit of different options involving different weapons, trinkets, and skills. For example, in one run, I had a full range build, swapping between kunais and a bow, whereas another run I was full melee with an ultra attack that would turn me into a spinning ball of death, making for some pretty impressive synergy. Windblown has a lot of familiar roguelike concepts that are turned up to 11 with its fast, frenetic pace. Windblown nails the roguelike package. Combat is fun, engaging, and challenging, and always kept me on my toes. Enemies were challenging and very quick to throw out attacks. In the beginning, it may almost feel a bit too quick, but adjusting to the fast pace doesn't take too long at all. Its fast gameplay also plays along to its benefit, adding to that just one more run mindset, given how easy and quick it is to blaze and jump straight back into its action. However, an element that needs work are its weapons and their balancing, especially the range options. So the bow with its auto-targeting and what feels like no tradeback in damage made for a pretty obvious choice almost every run. So I mean, balancing is something to be aware of, and it will be needed in Windblown, but this is something that will be evaluated. Windblown aims to set itself apart with the ability to play with up to 2 other friends. The game hints at this during its intro segments, suggesting that additional leapers will help dive even further into the vortex, and after comparing playing solo and co-op, I can say that playing with another friend is strongly encouraged. The fast pace can maybe almost be too much for one player to juggle, as enemies are pretty relentless in their attacks, and having an extra person will just help taking that heat off. This preview build contained 2 biomes with a boss at the end of each, separated by a shop and a recovery spring that refilled your health. Now, this resting pattern would likely continue throughout its many biomes as the game builds. I did notice that Windblown also offers some good quality of life features, such as a shared purchase system, so if someone is just short of getting a potion refill or something like that, another player can make up the difference with their own currency. I did notice that loot sharing was slightly a bit confusing, alternating between shared and separate drops, so it was a bit hard to tell what was going on sometimes. Audio design throughout Windblown is engaging, responsive, and feels impactful as you dart around. Electronic tracks give Windblown a nice relaxing backdrop that picks up during its many intense encounters. Sound cues during important combat actions are distinctive and clear, so you always sort of know what's going on, and gives great audio feedback on where we are in a combo, sort of keeping us informed of the situation at all times. Some sound effects did seem to be missing from enemies and bosses, but this will likely be added in later updates. Now, visually, Windblown offers a cute and cuddly look, which may feel a bit misleading as the combat is anything but a relaxed time. Windblown's cinematic cutscenes have a great anime-inspired feel, adding personality and a great feel to the world. The in-game cartoon style is also lovely to look at, environments look detailed, enemies and characters look unique and apparent in their movements. One other issue I did notice is navigating the environment and a general sense of direction. It wasn't clear until my 5th run in on where to go exactly next after an encounter. Only then did I notice patterns on the ground are actually pointers, something that could be a little more obvious and threw off the fast connected flow of the rest of the game. Considering the fast nature of Windblown, performance running great at all times is almost a necessity. The recommended specs for Windblown is a 1070. Me and a few others were running 3070s, much higher than the recommended specs. For each of us, Windblown ran smoothly at 60 FPS in the first biome, with only occasional dips during particle explosions or loading into an area, but the game definitely took a decent frame hit in the second biome, especially scenes that were zoomed out. So this is very early, but this is one thing that would definitely need to be worked on, considering Windblown's fast nature, and any major dips are going to be hindering that fast gameplay. Given this is a preview build before early access, bugs are expected along the journey. Nothing major was found, but sometimes actions from my co-op partner would not display, even though I could hear them, and some certain dialogue scenes would not trigger when I was in a party. So my final thoughts are that Windblown shows a lot of promise. It demonstrates Motion Twin's careful consideration of what makes a genre tick and how it can offer a unique spin and continue to innovate. Windblown presents an accessible package that is fast, frantic, and fun, despite being in its very early stages. Windblown is another example of Motion Twin's expertise, and with focus changes such as balancing, performance optimization, and a stronger narrative pull, Windblown's electric loop gameplay may just strike twice for Motion Twin.